A hugely sad time for communities and particularly two families in Soweto. Their children were kidnapped and murdered. It's understood the two boys were part of a group of 3 who were abducted. Only one child managed to escape. The 2 bodies were found mutilated in Rockville. The Gauteng Premier, Panyaza Sufi, and the Education Embassy, Matoma Chilwane, visiting the families of the children this evening. Our reporter, Katleho Sekhotho, there for you. Katleho, good afternoon to you. What's happened?
A very good afternoon, Stephen. Indeed, not a very good afternoon here in White City in Soweto. Really a harrowing scene that we saw earlier on, the bodies of 2 children found mutilated. And it really is about, the questions are, who's behind this? Who's responsible for kidnapping those children? And when will they be brought to book? But I want to bring in quite quickly here, Stephen, into the conversation, spokesperson for the Gauteng department, Steve Mabona, just to chat to me. We are at the home of one of the families. Steve, thanks so much for speaking to us. Very devastating story here. What do we know about this incident?
Yes, quite sad indeed. According to information at our disposal is that the children were playing around a street away from here, because this is their home. The other one is stay around the corner, not far from here. They were playing, we are told, and they were allegedly kidnapped. And in the early hours of the morning, messages started to come across that there were 2 bodies that were found. Mutilated, like as you've indicated, and the police started to investigate, the circumstances surrounding this incident. This is our learners. One was doing grade R, the other one grade 1. Quite sad indeed, but the Premier and the MEC, they felt that they need to come to both families just to pay their last respect and convey their condolences to both families, because they're not far from each other. We start here with the grade R learner and then move to the grade 1 learner. It's quite sad indeed. It's things that you really don't want to see in a community.
Steve, often one thinks about why would someone do this? Do we have any idea of the motive behind this incident?
No, we will rely on the police. They will give them space to investigate, but we are quite aware that the community here is quite active. There are volunteers who are, patrollers. Currently, we can see they are facilitating. There's a meeting that is going to be held here in the community. Probably, information will be shared with the police so that they can then apprehend those perpetrators. It's quite sad indeed. Things I don't want to see. We are hopeful that the new wardens that the Premier is going to be unleashing from the 1st of May, this community will also benefit, so that we have a response that will be quicker. When people blow the whistle, then police should be in a position to come early, as quick as possible, so that we apprehend those that are doing crime.
Yeah. Talking about police responding speedily, the timeline of this incident, do we know when the children were kidnapped and when then they were found? Do we know the days or how that looks, the timeline?
No, according to information at our disposal, all this happened yesterday. It looks like late in the evening, there was a message that those learners were kidnapped because they were missing. Then the parents started to be concerned, and it turned out that those that you might have seen, those culprits, when they were, they kidnapped them. And in the wee hours of the morning, messages started coming to say this incident, there's 2 bodies of children that are lying there. Then police were called, and then they started to do their work. So it happened yesterday very late, and in the wee hours of today, the police started to do their investigation.
Thank you so much for your time, Steve. Stephen, there you heard it from the spokesperson for the Gauteng Education Department, Steve Mabona, really outlining the details around this incident, explaining there that it happened over, since yesterday the children went missing, and in the early hours of this morning, families then heard about the children, or then the messages started to come in that their bodies were found. And so it's really about how police are investigating and when people can be, the suspects behind this can be arrested, and really give closure to the families who are grieving here this afternoon.
Well, thank you very much indeed. A most terrible story, difficult time for the community, and just the most awful time for the families.